An article in Psychology Today discusses the plight of lonely men in our country, saying that, quote, dating opportunities for heterosexual men are diminishing as relationship standards rise. So in other words, women are less tolerant of things that they feel they don't have to tolerate anymore. What that means for men is that they can either make the effort to understand why women might not find them attractive for long-term partnerships, or they can just hope to find someone that loves them just the way they are. Now, apparently that latter bit isn't going so well, and there are 3 reasons the article points to for this. The high relationship standards is one thing, but also dating apps and skills deficits.
Psychologist Greg Maddow says that the current state of young and middle-aged men's love lives shows that they need to, quote, address a skills deficit and step up their dating game. He writes, I hear recurring dating themes from women between the ages of 25 and 45 that they prefer men who are emotionally available, good communicators, and share similar values. He goes on to say that society has done a poor job of teaching boys how to communicate and that the influx of dating apps have made the plight of the lonely man a whole lot harder.
Now, as far as women having higher relationship standards goes, it comes down to the fact that some women are literally happier being single than they are with certain partners. So if no one's forcing a woman to get married and she can support herself and her household on her own, then what is the point of her choosing the less happy life path? And men having skills deficits that they need to address in order to become more attractive to women, I think that's pretty rough. It kind of sucks for them, honestly, and it's not even their fault. Men have been trained, or at least influenced, to suppress their emotions, to embrace hypermasculinity, to not cry, and sure, some women are into that, but a lot of women aren't. It comes with a lot of baggage.
Men can cry too, there's nothing wrong with it, and there absolutely is something wrong with it, and I'll explain to you why. Life as a man is far more difficult than life as a woman.
In the Fox segment, I think they were trying to make the opposite point, that men are now overcompensating by over-emoting to women in a way that isn't attractive, which could also be true, but again, it comes down to finding someone who gets you. The Fox segment, I kind of agreed with a lot of what they had to say, especially during the dating app discussion.
I blame online dating for the deficit in happy couples. Why? Because online dating, an app, will never capture someone's actual energy. When it comes to courtship and dating, we are attracted to energy, okay? Every woman has left a guy at the bar who is a 9 and gone home with a guy who is a 6 because he had something about him. And I only know that because I was the 6.
Dating apps are wild. Back when I was single, I only used them briefly and I didn't even use them properly. I just wasn't interested or invested in the process, but a big part of the reason for that was because it all felt very artificial to me. If people that I knew and loved in my life were on a dating app with like a snarky headline or something, I don't know that I would swipe right on some of them. You get to know people in organic situations and you come to love people the more you learn about them and the more you appreciate having them in your life. The guy I ended up with, I had actually met years ago back in college through mutual friends, and then he hit me up 10 years later on Instagram. That said, if he had put together a profile of his likes and his dislikes, I don't know that I would have looked at that list and thought, he's the one. He's also a horrible texter, which is sort of a skill that you have to cultivate these days. So that whole initial online dating period where you're just texting back and forth probably wouldn't have gone too well.
And I think that's the problem with apps, is that they're teaching women and people in general to prioritize things that don't determine attraction, don't determine whether or not 2 people are going to click. Oh, you watch the same show as me? So does my brother. I don't want to date him. You know what I mean? It's just the thing.
Ooh, the gallery's laughing
The
at
whole
that.
point is,
But trying to find a life partner on a dating app feels a lot like trying to find a long-term salaried job on LinkedIn. It's incredibly impersonal and it doesn't give you much of an opportunity to show off your most prized and most beautiful asset, your personality, right? Both processes reduce the entirety of a dynamic individual with a lifetime of unique experiences to bullet points and binaries. Like, do you prefer dogs or cats? I don't know, it depends on the cat. Is that an automatic disqualification? It shouldn't be. People have nuance, and expecting them to fit into tiny boxes isn't helping either party. Now, all of that said, the loneliness is an actual societal problem that we're facing. Lonely men is a problem for everyone, not just the men. I know I'd mentioned this this in another video recently, but it's a little ironic that we're more connected than ever on social media, but we all feel so much more drained and lonely because of it. Where relationships are concerned, meaningful relationships, less is more. In order to cultivate meaningful relationships, you have to invest time and effort into them, but with so many distractions and options, for lack of a better word, it's hard to focus on any one person or community. It's a really inorganic and unnatural way to engage with one another. An article from Vox discussed this exact topic. Citing a survey from AEI and Gallup, the percentage of men with at least 6 close friends fell by 50% from 1990 to 2021. Also, 20% of single men said that they have no close friendships. And I'm sure you can imagine the negative impacts that can have on someone's mental health and what that can mean for all of a society to have these sad, lonely men. But even physically, men can suffer from isolation. They become more prone to illnesses like heart disease, cancer, diabetes, and Alzheimer's. And the reasons for this are all over the place. It's all rooted in the way that we've designed our entire societal structure. It's the housing crisis, right? Men are living at home longer than before, which affects their self-image, which leads to them avoiding close connections with others. It's the job market. People are job hopping more often than previous generations had to, so they're unable to cultivate long-lasting relationships with colleagues. We're also working longer hours than before, which leaves less time for socializing. Men are also socialized differently than women in such a way that they aren't comfortable or capable when expressing their emotions to others. And this can lead to men being unable to connect with others on a deep emotional level because they literally can't express their feelings even if they wanted to. They were never taught how to. Also, our ideas of what masculinity should be or what it should look like leads to men stifling their emotions that they do have, which results in them being much more likely to use physical violence and twice as likely to have suicidal thoughts than men who are raised outside of that traditional masculine norm. Now, it's all very sad, and there isn't any one obvious solution. And I'm not saying that men are to blame for any of this, and I'm also not saying that women don't have inner work that we also can and should be doing. Now, I suppose if I had to propose a possible solution, it would be to get off of our phones, go outside, and talk to people. It's kind of crazy, though, how difficult that can be these days. We've molded society around our devices, and while I like to think that there's a way out from behind the screens, it really is easier said than done. All right, that's it for me. I'm sure you'll have a lot to discuss in the comments, but if you got anything out of this, please like and subscribe, and be sure to follow me on Instagram and TikTok. Thank you.